All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Following the trades of both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant earlier this season, the Brooklyn Nets were left for dead. But the upstart Nets responded by not only qualifying for the playoffs, but also doing it by avoiding the play in tournament. However, the Nets had a reality check waiting for them in the first round of these NBA playoffs in the form of the Philadelphia 76ers, who made Brooklyn's trip to the postseason a quick and uneventful one. The Nets were not only swept by the Sixers, they were also the first team to be sent home in these NBA playoffs, as Philly fans today made the Barclays Center in Brooklyn at times sound like the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. Now, let's not dance around the floor, as the Nets were facing an uphill battle from the word go in this series, as Philadelphia is talented enough to win it all this year. But it was telling, for me at least, that the Nets could not take advantage of the Sixers today in game four, who had to go at it without the services of all star center Joel Embiid. This also marks the second consecutive year that the Nets were swept in the first round of the playoffs, albeit last year's roster was totally different from this year's team. And if you're the Sixers, the last two teams that beat the Nets in the playoffs. The Bucks and the Celtics went on to make the NBA Finals. So if you're a Philly, you definitely hope some of that continues to go your way. But nonetheless, Brooklyn's weakness was exposed in this series, as they are a team of guys, but unfortunately, they just don't have the guy. And you look at this Nets team, they're full of guys who are second and third options on teams, with the likes of Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Cam Johnson, just to name a few. And the Nets, they're good enough to make the playoffs, yes, but obviously, in the postseason, you're going to need stars, at least one star, to help carry you towards the championship round, at least. So you look at it overall, if you're the Nets, this season is over. And it was a very difficult one from the word go. A tremendous job by head coach Jacques Vaughn to get this team through all of the adversity. Of course, he took over earlier in the season when the Nets moved on from Steve Nash. Of course, two big trades prior to the trade deadline. First, sending Kyrie Irving to Dallas, and then KD to the Suns. But honestly, in my opinion, I felt like the second half of this season for Brooklyn was almost a pause, an opportunity for them to get their breaths collectively, if you will, and try to figure out what their next step was going to be. And I feel like the Nets front office probably used the second half of this season as an evaluation process to see who is going to be in the fold with this franchise going forward. Now, Cam Johnson and Seth Curry are both set to become free agents this summer. I don't see Seth Curry in the long term plans of the Nets. I think they do try to make a conscious effort to bring Cam Johnson back. Will he want to stay in Brooklyn? That is going to be the big thing. Another big question: what are the Nets going to be able to do about Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons still has 2 years left on his deal. Of course, Brooklyn acquired him in the trade a couple of years ago with the 76ers. And of course, the two big names in that trade were Ben Simmons and James Harden. And of course, James Harden is continuing to do James Harden type things. But Brooklyn has to be disappointed with what they've been able to get out of Ben Simmons, oft injured. And at times he just simply seems a shell of himself, and it's unfortunate because the talent is there. And like I talked about it earlier this season, Ben Simmons has the basketball talent to average a triple double. He has just not been able to achieve it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Nets do with the Simmons situation over the summer. Now, a guy like Mikal Bridges, he has really stepped up. Since coming over from Phoenix, He has been a guy that is viable, and he is showing the Nets that he can be a part of their future. You got to like what you have with guys like him, with guys like Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, Joe Harris, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal. To me, the Nets currently are in the mold of what they were prior to bringing in Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. As far as, you know what, you just had a group of guys, scrappy, hungry, determined. They kind of fit what Brooklyn, the borough in New York City, is all about. And you kind of have that again. And if you're the Nets, you just have to ask yourself, are we going to try this way another year? Are we going to try to go out and get a star this summer? What's going to be of this Brooklyn Nets franchise going forward? We got to wait and see. So it's going to be interesting to see which direction that Nets general manager Sean Marks decides to go with this thing. Again, I think Bridges, obviously, he's definitely going to be back. I think Dinwiddie's definitely going to be back. The big question is going to be, can they get Cam Johnson back? And I'll tell you like this: the Nets right now, even if they bring in a guy like Cam Johnson back, they're not a championship team. I think they're going to be a competitive and exciting team. But at the end of the day, like I've said before, you have to ask yourselves. You look at Milwaukee, Boston, and Philadelphia. Right now, that's the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference. And for any team that is looking to win the East, you have to say to yourselves, do we have enough to get past those three in playoff series? Obviously, the Nets are not in that class right now. I think the Nets, even with this roster that they currently have, are good enough to be a playoff team next season, at the very least, getting to the play in tournament. But I think right now, if you're the Nets, you've had an opportunity after the dust has settled. Now let's see what you can do building forward. Again, it was a reality check for the Nets. I really thought at the best, they were going to be able to get a game in this series, but them being unable to take advantage of Embiid not being there, had a lot of dry spells this afternoon in game number 4 on the offensive end of the court. You got to go out there and take advantage of Embiid not being there. They were unable to, and that is a big reason why they are home right now or getting ready to go home. But nonetheless, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, from where this season began, the championship expectations, of course, when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant were still in the fold, surviving all of that and still finding a way to make the postseason. At the end of the day, in my opinion, their season was successful. Not championship successful, but successful nonetheless. So let's see what the Nets do over the summer to try to improve their team heading into next season. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, as the Nets are heading home. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out and drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.